fellow mystics, and welcome back to the podcast. Hey, is there a question or a guideline that you can apply to life that will help you in most choices, most decisions? I think there might be, and the question is, it's not what, it's why. And that's what we're talking about today. It's a really important conversation, and I think it's one you're going to enjoy. So let's get started.
The Misfit Mystics podcast is a presentation of Pioneer Dream, celebrating 30 years of moving stories for our corporate, nonprofit, and entertainment partners. We invite you, fellow Misfits, to join the conversation with text, emails, or just the messages in the comment section below. As always, you can share this podcast with anyone you think would get it by sending the link below. Thanks for listening.
Mystics, what is up? And welcome back to the podcast. How are you doing?
I guess I'm the one who's supposed to answer that question since I'm the only one in here with you.
If somebody else answers, it's going to be awkward.
Yes. I am fine. I am glad to be alive. I am glad to be breathing. Glad to be able to do this with you. There's a lot going on. And I feel that in the air.
Yes, there is what's going on. Absolutely.
But I'm grateful for this time. So that was a long answer to your question. Let's try. You want to try it again?
Sure.
Okay.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you.
What a concise answer.
Good.
Yeah.
Everything's good.
Good. No problems. No problems.
Yeah, I like it.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast, all you listeners, wherever you are. We are really glad that you're part of this conversation, and hopefully we're all going to leave this spot a little more encouraged and hopeful than when we got here.
Yes.
And it's been an interesting couple of days and weeks since last we met, and we don't have to get into all that, but they're difficult and challenging times.
Yes.
We find ourselves in for a lot of different reasons. And I will say, by way of reminder, if you like this podcast, you might also like our other two podcasts, the Dreamers Live podcast, which is essentially just an entertaining conversation about living intentionally.
Yes. How to human better,
There's
we
two
say.
really wonderful hosts on that show. They're very funny. It's a cute couple.
Oh, is it different than us?
Oh, it's us. Sorry.
I'm not feeling very cute, but
And
no.
and then there's also, and I love this podcast. It's the Got a Minute Mini podcast, and it pairs a chapter, often humorous, from that I've written about, for a column or whatever, but it's part of the book that I released a year or so ago called "You Really Don't Have to Read This."
But you should read it.
But you should read it.
Yeah.
And then we pair one of those kind of funny chapters with one of your original songs. And then you're so generous, you come on to the podcast and you give us kind of the behind the music of that song.
Yes. Well, I'm, always available to you. So,
you're so
happy
kind,
to
so generous.
help.
The fact that you would fly in for something like that.
Actually, what I enjoy about it is when you call me, you never say what song it is. So then I have to go back in the annals of songs I've written for a long time.
Yeah.
But it's always kind of sweet to me what the songs that you will pick, because you've been around for all of those. So it may be something back from college, and you'll be like, hey, remember this? And I'm like, no, I don't. But the way you pair them together is sweet to me.
It always has some meaning to it, and it's really nice for listeners because like this newest one is a song you can't really find anywhere else. So the song that we did in the last episode is called Beautiful Mess. And just, when you put together albums and releases and CDs and all that kind of stuff, you kind of go through and you kind of have to handpick the songs that you want to be on there. So we had more songs.
Yeah, definitely.
Than really seemed to match the theme or construct of that
the
release.
album at the time. Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't that it wasn't a good song; it just didn't fit that spot. And
it was
really
cool,
nice to be able to do
cool
it this
to hear
time.
it again. So thank you, and it's fun to say "Got a Minute Mini Podcast."
That's
Can
right.
you say that?
And it is. That's you want to look it up that way. Got a minute. Mini dash podcast
because they're only 15-ish minutes long.
Yeah, they're real short, so you can listen to it on your smoke break or listen to it on your lunch break or while you're doing errands or whatever. And
if you can only tolerate us for 15 minutes at a time, that's a good one.
That's the way to do it. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And when last we did a Mystics podcast, we did a live podcast. Speaking of live events,
that was cool.
We by the time you hear this, we will have just done a Dreamers event here in the Ville, but we have at least two more that we're planning on doing before the end of the year, and we'll have those dates for you soon. We're kind of shoring up some details.
We are working through our holiday seasonal schedule. Yeah, which is crazy.
We try to lay things out so that it's not a burden. And we realize that everybody has a lot of things to do, especially this time of year.
Especially us.
Now that it's October, almost October, and we're into the holidays.
Oh man, I know it's like the whole last quarter. It's just like holiday partying.
I very much think that Labor Day is like the unofficial end of summer, but then we could just also call it the unofficial start of the holidays.
Well, the unofficial start of the holidays is in July when Hobby Lobby puts out all the Christmas decorations.
Oh, it's like a slow advance of a military force that starts off on the borderline, like, hey, we're not doing anything.
Yeah.
We're just back here in case you need us. And then, like, every week it moves up 2 more aisles. And you're like, wasn't that back in the back? No. And
there's a system.
It feels like there's a lot of evergreen here in August.
Listen, Hobby Lobby, and they've got it going on. They're going to close on Sunday, and they're going to celebrate Jesus' birthday year-round.
Well, and very short story, our daughter is very much in love with fall, as we are. It's our favorite time of the year.
But she's really getting after it this year.
But man, I think probably the intense heat and everything else, and she's just I think emotionally she has just needed to turn a corner. Like, it's been difficult in the world. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And you're just hoping to turn a corner into something familiar and bubbly and loving and kind. So she and one of her besties
pretty
had
cute.
a sleepover last week. And when they did, they decided they were going to do a whole lineup of, quote, fall activities.
It was going to be their fall sleepover.
Yeah, so it was like they went and got fall treats at Starbucks and pumpkin things.
Yeah,
and
they
all
went
that
to
kind
Goodwill
of
to
jazz.
shop for sweaters. I mean, it was like the whole deal. We had fall crafts.
And then they even found themselves at Hobby Lobby looking for specific fall things they could do together. It was really fun.
Yes, and the sad thing was the high that day was 89.
Oh, it was worse than that. It was in the 90s.
Well, was it really?
Yeah, we were in the pool that weekend.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So,
I was like, how about a fall swim? Yeah. So anyway, it'll happen.
Yeah. But listen in, and we'll have some more things about our next 2 Dreamers Live events. It's going to be a super fun thing, and we're looking forward to seeing a lot of you there if you're in the region. And
yes.
Yeah. So, and speaking of live things, the last time we got together, last Mystics podcast was a live event. It was the Mixed Up Mystics Meetup.
Yeah, that's a lot of M's. It's like the Got a Minute Me podcast.
But it was really special to do that with people.
It was kind of an experiment, but it was cool. It was neat to be able to.
Yeah, and I don't know the future of that. We haven't planned any more events, and I don't know what that's going to look like. But that night was really sweet and very special.
It was cool, and it was neat to be able to talk about some of the things that we talk about on the Mystics podcast with people there.
Yeah.
And, kind of take some of their questions and get them involved a little bit. So, yeah, we'll see what the future of the meetups hold. It was neat, though, to get to connect that way.
I loved it. And, we love having these conversations. And we do. I mean, we talk about things on Mystics as a podcast. So it's you and I having a conversation.
Yeah.
And most of the time, it's really unscripted. I know where we're going to start. But I'm counting on hearing from you, and so that's going to go wherever it goes.
And some hopeful
inspiration. Where the Spirit leads it, that's where it's going to. We're going to go with the Spirit.
We're going to go with the Spirit.
But we have these conversations with other friends and other people, and so it was really nice to be able to do that night. And speaking of which, that night we talked about this concept, this idea, which I still find really interesting, about this. What some people would term like a spirit or practice of religion versus like a practice of Christianity or true Christianity, and kind of differentiating this religion or the practice of religion is really externally focused for the most part. It really hones in on symbolism over substance. It really hones in on outward appearance. It really hones in on activity and in reality,
on activity, that's a good way to put it.
In reality, what it really focuses on in a subversive kind of way is human effort. Yeah. I can memorize these things. I can do these things. I can hold myself to these things. I can do this list, and I can really, And so we get into things like, the idea of penance. There's something I can do to forgive myself, to take care of my burden. When it comes to forgiveness, I'm going to do penance this way. Yeah. And there's one thing about penance that makes it mindful and an awareness. There's another part of it where it feels like, no, I'm checking off the list. No, I'm making this okay. No, I'm atoning for this. Yeah. And that's an interesting place. And there are lots of reasons for this. Kind of spirit of religion or practice of religion, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's just comfortable for us.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's a lot of it. I think people who are involved that way, their motivations are good.
Yeah.
They're wanting to connect with God. I mean, they're wanting to do the right thing in their life. And so if somebody says, here's a system.
Yes.
And I mean, it's just like, someone prescribed your workout for the day. You're like, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to have a 6-pack of abs.
Right.
So it's that kind of a thing. And there's some comfort in knowing that it's taken care of. But you're right. I mean, that's the danger in it, is that often it is man's effort versus a thing of the spirit, which is of the heart.
I think what we got to in that night, that Mystics Meetup conversation too, was that the really difficult and kind of diabolical part of that thing is that it interrupts our connection or relationship to the divine, to the person of Jesus. So here you have this funny thing that happens when even, for example, when we screw up or mess up or fail or sin or however you want to term that.
Yes. Pick your poison.
The idea of that is that in forgiveness somehow, in the act of forgiveness, in the act of remorse, we somehow end up closer to God than when we started. So like we were talking about that night, this whole conversation about the prodigal son. And what's ironic about all that, here you have this, these two sons, obviously everybody knows the story. And he says, look, I'm leaving, I'm giving my half, I'm taking off, I'm doing this whole thing. And then he, literally throws the money away in lascivious living. And
nice use of lascivious.
Debaucherous living. So not good stuff. So. And so then he has an epiphany, he has a moment, he thinks, I'm starving out here, I could go back home. And, he kind of rehearses his speech, and there's true remorse in it. And he says, I'm going to go back and make myself a servant, I'm going to do this whole thing. And so here he shows back up on the scene with this prepared speech and how he's going to grovel and do all this stuff. And then, of course, the father comes running to him, and he's been looking for him. And all this stuff. And so, and it's an amazing thing because of the depth of what he has done in this process. It's half of everything the father's ever worked for. So you build up all this wealth. He's toiled and he's done all this stuff. And in a lot of ways, as most parents are probably thinking, I'm going to hand this over to my sons, and they're and I'm giving them this start, and they're going to grow this, and they're going to take over the family business, and all this emotion that's involved in all that. Sure. And then you have a son who just messes all of it up and just destroys that whole plan. Yeah. And in the moment of coming back home, and the moment of, his dad discovering you're still alive, you're this jewel that's still here and all this kind of thing. When that parable is over, you're left with this sense or insight or understanding of thing. And I think these two people are closer now than they were when they started. Yeah. He's closer now than before he left with the money. Yeah. So whatever that time period was, 1, 2, 5 years, when his son was 18 or whatever, that father and son relationship is more intimate now, 5 years later, after all that's
because of the son's failure and because of the father's forgiveness.
And because of this intimacy that happens. So
the term reconciliation, which we hear a lot, used in a political sense, but that word basically is things are made right between them, and because of the son's failure and then the father's forgiveness, they are closer. And we talked about that, when we did the Mystics Meetup. Right. I mean, it's like in any relationship, if you're willing to humble yourself and say, I really screwed this up, or I didn't mean to hurt you that way, but I did, and I'm really sorry. If once that confession and the forgiveness from the other person comes, you do feel closer. Yes. I mean, have you ever noticed how strange that is when you have to discipline your child?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's terrible when you have to do it. Yes. We're at the stage where you're just taking things away and, that kind of a deal. But once the repentance, if it does come, or.
Yeah, if there's a lights on for.
Yes. And then you'll find that same child snuggling. Right. Laying their head on your shoulder, snuggling with you on the couch. There's something about, there's a knowing that you're loved in that, and that's why that stuff was taken away, to prevent you from worse harm.
Someone loved you enough to do that.
Yeah. So there's a closeness. Is that a word?
It is. It is today.
Well, it's not lascivious. But,
And I think what's so interesting about that is that religion interrupts all that. Religion becomes a surrogate for that. And what religion is really doing is removing that intimacy that we would otherwise have. So when we become the Savior, when we become the one taking these actions, with penance and all that kind of thing.
Saying, I'll fix this.
Yeah, it's putting the human element and the human effort into it, the human fix into it.
Yeah.
What that's really doing is getting in the way of the intimacy that we're supposed to have when Jesus is that place.
Yeah. When
Jesus is that person. So that's the danger of this kind of spirit of religion, or this process of religion, where it is subtly, it seems right, it seems good,
yes,
but what it's actually doing is removing God
list.
from the relationship.
Yeah.
It's removing God from the equation. It's removing Jesus and the intimacy that's supposed to be there, and it's really human powered.
Yeah.
And that's what becomes the thing. And so we ended that night talking about the statement that you and I have, that we keep coming back to, which is, it's not what, it's why. And I think that's such an interesting kind of law or rule to live by or work by, is it's not what we're doing, it's why we're doing it. You and I, if you have a repeated thing, a repeated challenge in your life, you might choose to involve some physical thing. Like there was a thing for a long time called Way Down, and so it was helping people who had food issues and portion issues and all that kind of stuff. And so it would, when you were initially starting out on that, you would do some physical reminders of that. So you might, when you were making a plate for dinner, you would make a plate with smaller portions, because that would help bring to mind, I
only need this much.
Most of us are trained to eat everything that's on a plate or whatever's there.
Thanks,
We're
America.
going to do all that. And so you start off by saying, okay, I'm going to do this as a reminder.
Yeah.
That is a physical thing that's helping us in that.
Helpful.
And so we do that because we're trying to make a physical connection to a spiritual thing, and that's useful in that way. Well, that's one reason. That's one. The act might be the same, but for somebody else, there's a control element to it.
I see.
There's a control of how many calories I'm going to let in, how much tension is in the
So
thing.
I only get 11 bites. And
and so you're constantly
portion it out.
you have this fear thing that's happening inside of you, where you're constantly monitoring and
controlling.
You'll never do more than 12 ounces. You can only do 11. You never do this portion. You never do that. You'll never include all this and this and this. And so it's not the what, it's not the size of the plate that's important. It's not how much food is on the plate. It's why. Why is that? The idea of trying to put something together with repentance, whatever that is. Like, okay, so, for example, a lot of a lot of Christian practices include something called Lent, where you're doing a thing and you give something up for Lent, or you do this and this and this.
And it's before Easter. The idea is that you become mindful about the sacrifice that Jesus made.
So it might be giving up chocolate, it might be giving up cussing, it might be giving up whatever it is.
Yeah, and it's really popular in more liturgical churches.
Right.
Yeah, so fundamentalist, the way I grew up, we were like, oh, we're good. Jesus did it all. We don't need to do anything. We're fine.
So then the question becomes, what and why?
Yeah.
So I'm doing this, but I'm doing this because I'm bringing my mind back to this place.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a place of struggle for me, and I want to create a certain level of awareness. I want to shore some things up in my life. And so I'm creating a moment where this brings my mind back to the Father. This brings my mind back to Jesus. And I say, hey, I want you to know I see this too. I would like some help on this. And so I'm going to continue. I'm going to keep this in front of me for a while.
Right.
Well, that's the why.
Yeah.
But it's the what, that gets in the way. If we're doing fasting, but we're doing that from some kind of machismo, pseudo-masochistic
like I'm
kind
strong
of way.
enough, like, God, I love you so much, I'm going to prove it to you, so I'm just not going to eat.
Right.
Yeah. And we both had experiences like that, but unfortunately, it's the tough part of trying to follow Jesus.
Yeah.
It's the good part, but it's the tough part, because when you believe that God sees into the motivation of your heart, very quickly the why is revealed. So you can go through all of the steps that you have laid out for yourself. But if your heart isn't in it, then that it isn't sincere, it's not honest, and it is religion. And I mean, it's the same as if okay, say that you and I are married.
Okay,
we are.
We'll do it.
We're married.
Just for the podcast.
Right. But if you were an excellent husband and you helped take care of my needs and encouraged me and took me out on dates and did all the things that people do, and you do, right. But all those things, and you did all of that work and checked it off the list, but when we went out on the dates, your eyes were on somebody else.
Right.
Or your heart was thinking about somebody else.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. It has the appearance of doing all the right things, but
we get in the same thing with language, obviously. So you can refrain from quote unquote cuss words, but there can be just as much malice and bless their heart as there in go screw yourself.
Oh, that is so true.
You know
bless
what I mean?
their little hearts.
So you are doing this transaction.
Yeah.
You are transacting it, quote, properly.
Mm-hmm.
But what's really happening in the heart, the why, that's the part that's revealing.
Yeah. And I think of like
you can hold back and not drink, which is fine. Drinking is not the issue or any of that stuff, but it's the why. You're drinking. You're not drinking because it makes you feel holier. Are you not drinking because you don't ever want to feel like you have less control and less cinched hands on something? Are you not drinking because for you that gets in the way of your relationship with God somehow?
Yeah.
It's not the what, it's the why.
I think about too, I was thinking about like, and goodness, there's nothing wrong with going to church. That's not what I mean. Those are good things when we gather together. But if you say you have a family, you're holding your family to something, you will always be at church on Sunday and Wednesday and Bible study and all the other 7 things. And you require that is always done. Yeah. And in your mind, you think, aren't we great? We're getting all these things done. We're checking off the list. But why?
Right.
I mean, what if on a certain Sunday, it was more important that you actually spend some quality time with your kids than just relax and don't have to do that? I mean, is that okay?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the why in all the effort that we put out? And I struggle with this because I'm kind of a type A personality. I like the effort,
what unravels if you change the routine? What unravels if you're not able to be there? What unravels and what's the depth of what you have if that's what it takes to unravel it?
Well, and if you're keeping yourself and your family sometimes on that sort of a chain, what is it that you think that's going to earn you?
Right.
I mean, you already have, God's love.
Yes.
And you already have everything, like the father in the prodigal son story said, everything I have is yours. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I think that trust comes in to say, you know what, even if I miss choir practice or whatever, it's okay. That may be the best decision in that moment.
What I love about that is that I think it achieves what is the desired goal, which is asking why, which is usually a prayerful consideration. Well, that's intimacy. I'm having to go to this person I'm in a relationship with and say, hey, what's right in this situation? Hey, what's right in this moment? Hey, what do you want here? Versus an equation or a ritual, and there's nothing wrong with rituals, but again, it's the thing of saying, I'm trying to live my life in such a way that I don't need this intimacy. I'm trying to live my life in such a way that I don't need this relationship with God because I'm doing it all on my own. I'm doing it all myself. I got this. And so the why should be producing in us every opportunity to be more intimate with this person, to express more need, to expect more connection and relationship in the thing. So,
and on the flip side of my example before, that's what's so interesting about it is you could also be at church every single time the doors open, as we say. And the reason you're doing that is because you're so desperate to stay connected with God and to feel connected to Him and His people in any way that you know that's best for you.
Yeah.
So, and that's the why, is why are you doing it? Are you on some hamster wheel? We put ourselves on these hamster wheels where we just keep moving.
Do you have to be at the food pantry every day it's open?
Exactly.
Why?
To volunteer. Why? Yeah. Are they going to...
Is this
yes, it's a good thing. But
is this an act of love, or is this because you need the points?
Yeah, and you're checking it off the list.
Because you want to be seen doing this. Yes. Because if you don't do it, somebody else is going to fail.
Right.
And they're going to mess it all up and all that kind of stuff. Why?
Or you feel like you're not worthy of God's love and acceptance, or the acceptance and friendship of the people.
Disappointed if you're not there that day.
Yes, if you're not just on that hamster wheel, keep it moving.
Yeah.
I totally.
You give money or you don't give money to the church or whatever, to nonprofits. Why?
Yeah.
It's not what, it's why.
Yeah.
Maybe
instead of giving, you should go to the food pantry one day, Walter.
Are we giving money so that we don't have to be physically present somewhere?
Yes.
So that we don't have to be giving of ourselves somewhere.
Yeah.
So we don't have to be the one that do, quote, outreach. Do my paying money because I think, somebody who's, quote, more outgoing should be out there loving people and doing the work instead of me.
Right.
And so I'm paying off, in that sense.
Yeah. None of us get off easy.
Right.
Because knowing Jesus and trying to follow him as best we can requires looking inside your heart on the regular.
Why am I not going to somebody's house this weekend? Why am I not going to someone's house tonight? Why am I not, venturing over into this, that, or the other? Well, is it because it's necessary for me to get a little rest today, and that's understandable. Everybody needs to recoup.
Or are you getting
too
much rest?
Yeah, or is it avoidance? Or is it really selfishness?
Yeah.
I think that I love that part of it, and you're so right. And that's, in the
thank you.
In the meetup, which we termed the problem with Christianity. The problem with Christianity is when we really practice it, is there's no place to hide.
Right.
My motivations are visible. This picture that came up in that, it's me and Jesus in the attic of my heart, and he's luminous and shining a light on this pile of stuff that used to be in a shady corner, and he's saying, "You see that, right?" And then I have the decision to make, either to blame or to push that off or deny it or make shadow animals and hope he gets distracted, or to say, yes, I see that. Yeah. And now that I see that, can we work on this together?
Yeah.
Can you and I? I'm really sorry that's there. Mm-hmm. Can you and I work on this together?
I was chatting with somebody after the Mystics meetup. And they were talking about, it's a person who's had some really tough stuff in their life.
Is it me?
Yes, and you were talking about me, which was awkward, which is rude. But it's somebody that you and I both admire because they have continued to try and connect with God despite a lot of personal pain.
Yes.
And so this person was saying, I feel like I've become the cynic. I feel like I am seeing things through a jaded point of view. And I wanted to be like, well, if I'd been through everything you had too. But even in that person acknowledging that, that is an honesty that would survive the why question.
Right.
I mean, why? Because I've been through all this. And it's like you talk about the attic of your heart. It's like, I see the cynicism over here. But I like the way you term that, which first off, we have to stop shoving it into the corner and be, I don't see that. You don't see that, do you? Standing in front of it. Yeah. You don't see that. Can you see that? Because God obviously can see that. But when we acknowledge it, and then I like the way you said that, could you help me with that?
Yeah.
Let's work on that together. Right. That's, I think, the difference.
That's also why I kind of like this place we've gotten to when we talk about prayer and what that looks like, and it's different for everybody, and the conversation of prayer is different for everybody. And I get that. There's some, we talk a lot about right now this whole thing about kind of conversational prayer, being honest. And I say that as somebody who, essentially follows the Our Father every morning. So that's a written pattern, ritual, liturgical kind of experience.
Sure.
And yet I also, I use that as a framework because it covers so many wonderful things.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I've gotten to a place now where I do pray out loud a lot.
Yeah.
Because there's something about that I think has some power for me and or for the power of prayer. I don't know which, but it's effective. And then also this idea of being blatantly honest like we are in the attic and saying, Jesus, I really need your help because I don't want to be here. I don't feel like giving myself to these people and to this thing. Jesus, this bugs me because the reality is I wish I had that car, or I wish I looked like that, or I wish I felt like that,
That blatant honesty. So I like that you've come to that and just being, it's the same way that you might say something to a friend.
Yes.
That you wouldn't say to everybody else. You'd say, God, I really don't want to go to that thing, man. Those people annoy me.
Yes. Right.
And to be able to say that,
right.
in a friendship to God, and then once that's confession. We talk about confession. You say that, and then you say, "Can you help me with that?"
Yeah.
Because I know that's.
God, I wish I looked like that person. This, that, and the other. Or even with health stuff, I've been able to say. God, this is really depressing to me to feel this way, struggle with this thing, have this, whatever health struggle that is, the moment, or this, that, or the other, or God, I'm really worried about this. If this gets worse, where that would lead me, what that would be like for my family, what would that be, in that experience. And so the idea of being honest, the idea of being able to have that conversation, all of this is really, I think, the divine design, which is intimacy. And if you, however we would go to the scriptures, and however we choose to look at Genesis, whether it's a metaphor or whatever or not, and all this kind of stuff. Right. But there's a pattern that is established in that moment in Genesis that continues throughout all of human history. Yeah. And however you choose to look at evil, or the evil one, or the devil, or Lucifer, or whatever, the construct of the plan has been you got to keep them separated. Okay. So you have this intimacy that is on view in Genesis, God walking with Adam and Eve in the garden, and this intimacy is there, and this relationship, and the talking in the cool of the evening, and all that magical stuff that happens in that moment. And then there is introduced into that scene the evil one who is saying, I've got to separate these. I got to keep these two apart. And the way that he chooses to do that, or the scheme that he chooses in that, is to say, I got to keep these people away from God, and probably the best way to do that is to make them gods. Oh. If they believe that they are self-sufficient, if they believe they are gods, if they believe they don't need God anymore, if they eat from the tree of knowledge and they have knowledge, you will be like him. You yourselves will be like God.
You don't need that. You don't need him.
And so throughout most of human history, the schematic is to keep them separated, keep us away from the intimacy. So the idea of religion is, here is this thing like a relationship with God without God. It looks like you're in a relationship with God.
It's got all the steps to it.
It's got all the things and the things, but it's really human-powered. It's not divine-powered. It's really human effort. It's not divine intimacy. It's all this stuff that's meant to separate us from and keep us from being intimate with the one who really loves us in this ravishing love and this desperation kindness, and who continues to want to be with us time and time again, so much so that he has deposited himself in other humans, so that when we're together, we get this divine
activation
thing. And so he's flooded this universe with his DNA everywhere. And yet the whole intention of the evil is to keep us separated.
It's really interesting. We went to some deep spots pretty quick there, buddy. But it's pretty interesting. You ever notice, especially when you have like a younger child, and even before we had ours, I would notice this. And you may remember, did you ever have a time in your life where you made a big mistake, for instance?
No.
Maybe your parents told you many times not to, don't run in the house around that vase or whatever. And so you're like, sure. And then you go through with your Superman cape and it knocks over. Yeah. And it's interesting because the tendency that we have, especially when something makes a big mess as humans, is we want to fix it ourselves before anyone sees it.
Right.
And I remember when Evangeline was little, her having a couple of mistakes like that, because we had tried our best to be loving. We're not like shamers over that. You would say it's just a vase, but the mess would be bigger than she could fix for herself. Right. And it was obvious that she had tried to fix it on her own, but it was more fearful for her to have to show us, when the truth is what we wanted. And what I think God wants from us is for us to say, I made this mess.
Yeah.
Can you help me fix it?
Right.
And then there's that intimacy that comes from putting it back together.
Yes.
Together, versus us having that tendency to want to hide it and fix it ourselves.
Right.
It's interesting because we do that our entire lives as humans. I don't know what that tendency is to hide, when the truth is,
well,
working with God on something, it provides that relational closeness.
I think maybe at the heart of it is this thing of saying, if I'm honest with myself, is I don't want to need Jesus.
Yeah. Why do we not?
Because
why do we try
I don't want to be dependent upon somebody loving me.
Yeah.
Because when I look at myself, I am unlovable.
Whoa.
And so I don't want to entrust myself that way, because I don't see it. And what if he doesn't see it either? What if he does? If I can't see myself as lovable, I have to have faith or confidence that somehow he does. And I don't know that I want to do that. Faith and all that is work. It's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
But if I'm the Jesus, if I'm the God,
the fixer,
then I just have to do what I need to do. I don't have to trust somebody to love me or see something in me that I don't see, because I'm not lovable that way. So I think at the root of it, that's part of it. We have this, we don't see ourselves the way that we are seen by God, in a loving or divine way. And we're pretty harsh with ourselves.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to believe that somebody else would love us when we don't love us.
Yeah. And so I think that's where the concept of that religious activity and duty
That's the substitute. Let's do
come
this.
in. I can't fix this, and I don't want to just ask God to help me with it. So I'm just going to keep doing good stuff, doing these things, and earn it back. Yeah,
there's a tendency to, after pain, to let hardness come in. In that scenario, and then when the hardness comes in, then we begin to reevaluate truth. Then we begin to reevaluate. Maybe God doesn't exist. Maybe this all this was bullshit from the beginning.
Right.
Maybe it's this, and this instead, because the pain is there. We don't know what to do with that. So in lashing out, we just say, well, no, that's real.
Yeah.
That's not really what God wants. That's not really, and so we reevaluate truth, and we reevaluate those standards.
And I think,
Not and I don't mean that in a religious way. There's a lot of places that can go for people, but I'm not. What I'm saying about that is it's just there's a pattern in that we don't really know what to do with that pain. We don't really know how to resolve that pain. Yeah. And when we feel like we've been let down and that love has kind of let us down, that God has let us down, then that puts us in a really tough place.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in the toughest of places. Yeah. And, full discretion, just I feel like as one gets older, and one does if they're lucky, that can get harder. The more of life you experience, the more, pain that just comes from being human, all those different things. And so, I've been in a real, a period of the last probably, maybe a few years, and especially here recently, where I feel almost like I'm having to relearn to let God love me.
Right.
We have these principles that we hopefully have based our life on and try to act from, and I'm certainly not perfect about it at all. But you can still go through all the motions of all the things you've always done in your practice of Christianity, and still not feel that intimacy and closeness with God. And maybe that's good that we stay, that there are things that we can hold to and stay in. But, I've been in a real time period where I'm just having to remind myself that God is real.
Yeah.
And he does love me. And I think it gets back down to the very basics, for me.
Yeah, man.
Nice to confess that on the podcast. But it's
we
true.
were in Chicago a couple weeks ago, months ago maybe now, and I remember kind of we spent a lot of time together.
Oh my God,
course,
we were trapped in that small apartment, yes.
But one afternoon I got away, and you and Evangeline, I think, were shopping or doing something, and I was sitting at O'Callaghan's there and at the bar, and just writing some stuff in the note. I don't want to call it a journal because whatever. But I was writing some stuff out, and then I thought, I had this conscious thought, maybe a conscious thought and/or prayer, but when I thought, okay, this is a weird place that we find ourselves in human history, and sometimes finding the quote presence of God or the feels of God. The feels,
yeah. It used to be easier, I feel like. Yeah.
Sometimes those are harder to come by than others, and
definitely.
And I think that's part of where we are historically, And then I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to have to choose to trust you, that you're here, that you love me, and because otherwise I would have to turn my back on 30 years of history, 30 years of experiences, 30 years of hearing His voice, 30 years of things that we've done in community as believers. And I know all those things to be real, and I know all those things to be true, and those were all part of that experience. So the fact that it's not happening as sensationally as it today as it was then,
that's a good way to put it.
I'm going to have to, instead of torture myself going, where is God? Why can't I feel God? I don't understand what God, when am I ever going to, is God mad at me? No.
That's
so
always
I'm
fun.
going to have to simply choose.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm choosing today.
Yeah.
You and I are humans, so we've been together and for 32 years now, married wise, and so there are choices and decisions that you and I have, and we make good choices even when we don't quote feel it, even when the sensation is not there. And so it's that same kind of thing where we're saying, okay, I'm going to have to put this argument away. I can't have this argument every day. I can't have this argument 10 times a day. Is God mad at me? Does God still exist? Is God really here? You know what? So to put that argument away, I'm going to have to simply decide, you are here.
Yeah.
I don't know what this season means historically and why things are the way they are. Mm-hmm. I'm going to simply have to trust you that you love me, that you are with me, that you're not mad at me and all that kind of stuff off and off and off. But but we're here. And so I can put that away, and that in a way is an act of worship, and it's an act of faith. Yeah. It says, okay, I'm going to honor you by saying, despite everything else that's going on around me, you're still the one. Mm-hmm. You're still it,
Don't you find that for me, maybe you don't find this, but for me, when I choose to get up in the morning and, pray or talk to God or spend some time centering, whatever you want to call it, that's what I'm reminding myself of.
Sure.
At the heart of it is, hi, I know you're here. Mm-hmm. I know you love me. I know you're going to take care of things today. Right. And it's that simple. But it's pretty much every day. I mean, you have to go to town on that lie. Right. And that's how I feel in this certain phase of my life. It hasn't always been like that, but that's it. You've got to go to town. It's just be like, that is not true. And so I'm going to carry on with what I know in my heart. And I think that is trust at its root is, believing that. I mean, I know even if you and I haven't had a date night in a while, which we have not had a date night in a really long time, but anyway, that I know that you still love me. And, it's kind of the same type of thing. But maybe that is spiritual warfare. We talk about that a lot of times.
Right.
Is those thoughts in your mind that come. So remind yourself that you're loved. And being with people that remind you that you're loved by God.
Once again, it's got to keep them separated. I mean, that's the whole thing. And that's what I think what doubt and fear, the underpinnings of that is keeping us separated, keeping us self-focused, keeping us focused on this problem, this experiential thing, the sensational thing, and saying, okay, instead of, I felt, coming to that realization at O'Callaghan's at the bar and thinking, okay, well, resolving that made me feel more intimate with him.
Yeah.
It made me feel like I was trusting him. It made me feel like, oh, okay, we've had this thing together. It's a little bit like a monument that you would build after an experience. Say, okay, I'm going to come back to this and say, I'm not going to forget this. I'm not going to forget what you have done. And that's what it is. So resolving that brought me peace and brought me more chill in that, which was great. And also made me feel closer to him and like I was honoring him. So so it is this thing of getting in the habit of asking ourselves why. It's not, as we say, it's not the what, it's the why. So, and I want to encourage people listening that you don't have to beat yourself up over this. You don't have to be harsh with yourself, but
everyone struggles with
but
this.
As you're going through things, as you're deciding things, as you're participating in certainly religious activity, we have to quiet ourselves and as honestly as we can say, okay, why?
Yeah.
Why am I going to this meeting? Why am I going to this event? Why am I not doing this or that? Why? Is it because of an insecurity? Is it because I'm trying to meet a need with my human endeavor and power?
Yeah.
Or is it because of something that's good that I can do?
Or is it because you feel legitimately drawn to that? Like that's something God
and not everything will have
do.
Sometimes the why is because I don't get it, I don't know, but there's just something inside of me that says this is the right thing, and my ET light is shining now, so I'm going to do that, and there's Glojo on it.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's okay, and it's okay to do things just because it seems like the right thing to do, but it's when it becomes a human effort thing that's the thing that should get our attention and say, oh, okay, maybe I need to draw back from that or ask myself again, why am I doing this? And if it is actually getting in the way of intimacy with the person of Jesus, that should be the red flag.
Yeah.
So if it's something that becomes a substitute, and it's
very subtle.
It is very subtle, and that's why, because as we say with religion,
it looks good,
it seems right. The idea of doing penance seems right. The idea of doing, every day the church is open, being there and be present. All that seems right until we look at it, until we examine it, and then we realize, oh, this is actually contrary to truth. This is actually getting in the way of this intimacy and this relationship, and that's the red flag. And so the fact that the divine design is in every way and all ways to create intimacy, to in every way and all ways get us in more relationship with him, even when that relationship with him involves other people. That's amazing to me. And that the goal and design of religion is to create as much distance and space between us.
Yes, by doing it in our own effort.
Right.
It's the difference of doing something in our own effort.
Right.
And trying to fix it ourselves, I think, versus allowing God to pick up that mess with us, or to do that with us. And I got to check my heart on the regular.
One is life-giving and one is really tiresome. You know what I mean?
You see those people and you're like, oh, you look so tired from all of the church meetings and the good volunteering. We got to some pretty deep places and all that. We did. I think it's funny. Usually it seems like in these conversations we start out with one, you'll have like a nugget that you feel like there's shine on for us to talk about. And then it goes into a lot of different places. But that's good. And I am, even if no one were listening, I'm glad to be able to have the conversations with you. But I am grateful that there are people brave enough to listen to this podcast and share with friends. We had a friend that listens and had sent it to a friend of hers, I think in Ohio. And her friend had said, oh my gosh, I can't believe these people are in Oklahoma and you guys are having these conversations, and how does this happen? So that was like, there are people in caves that are looking at things on trying to keep their heart involved and not just their mind. Right. So I know we're glad for the people that are on this little podcast journey with us. I wanted to say that in an Irish accent. I don't know why. I'm glad you didn't. That's a little podcast journey. Gosh. Sorry, there it is. Well, I got to practice. We need to shut this down now. Yeah, we do. Hey, but we are thrilled to have this conversation with you. Thanks for being a part of this. Thanks for sharing this and subscribing and sending this to friends. It really means a lot to us, and we love it that every time this conversation expands, and it's because of you. So there's probably somebody you're thinking of right now that would really appreciate this or enjoy this conversation. So share it with them, and let's make this grow somehow. Yes, and one way to share it with people, because I know it's tricky, because we're talking about stuff, is say, hey, you don't have to agree with this. I just thought you might find it interesting. These are things I'm thinking about, and a lot of times people will, they're going to be open, to more open than you think. A lot of times the things that we talk about here, people are thinking about.
Absolutely.
They're just afraid to say it.
Yeah. All right, Mystics, until next time, peace out.
See you soon.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, share it with a friend. And check out Pioneer Dream's other podcast, Dreamers Live, a conversation about living intentionally. And Got a Minute? A podcast that pairs short humor columns with original music. This podcast is a presentation of Pioneer Dream, celebrating 30 years of moving stories for our corporate, nonprofit, and entertainment partners. Thanks for listening.